Yeah, okay, so we start then. Good morning, everybody. I'm John Campy. I've working for the BPIF for 16 years. I've been a printer all my life, did the apprenticeship at Elephant and Castle, London College of Print. And I've been around quite a few companies. So, Steve, if you'd like to give yourself a quick intro.
Yeah, I'm Steve Power. I am the training coordinator for the West Midlands. I've been within the role almost 7 years now. I started off as a printer apprentice when I was 16. I had somebody from the BPIF come in and assess me. So I've just basically moved through the ranks within company, done loads of training, and I've more or less gone full circle to become a training coordinator now. And it's yeah, great job. There you go, John.
Great. Next slide, please, Alex. Right, so we've got some interesting facts and figures, really. So one thing we're proud of, really, in the UK, we're the 5th largest producer of print. We've got some facts and figures up there again. Now, what we would normally do is ask you who are the 4 larger providers of print specialists. So the first one really would be USA, second would be China, third Japan, 4th Germany, and 5th UK. So you can see we have 112,000 employees, 8,000 companies, and a fair amount of profit and turnover there, which contributes to a very large and positive trade balance into the UK. Next slide, please, Alex. So what is print? We've got some examples up here on the screen. These are things that we see every day in our lives. Now, is there anyone there that thinks they will know of an industry or a trade or a profession that will be able to survive without a single bit of print? So you can put any of your answers to the top right of the screen. We'll be pleased to explain why they can't survive without print. So print is highly effective. It has impact. You see it pretty much every day. It could be subject to advertising. Certain colours could be trying to sell a product. It will have branding, ID, corporate identity, and also can be seen with luxury packaging. And one of the best ways of taking on your information is through the printed copy. So that's why books are currently selling more than Kindles. Next slide, please, Alex. So we can see over the years here, the industry is declining in terms of its employment. Now, that isn't particularly bad. It's because the industry has a huge amount of technology coming into it. It's a very sharp leading industry. We've got some very good kit which can be run by single people rather than 3 or 4 people. But once again, this is where automation has become far better than it used to be years ago. So those figures there aren't anything to be alarmed about. They're just really reinforcing that we've got cutting edge kit.
Also, a lot of companies now are working a lot smarter and a lot more flexible. Whereas in the olden days, you used to get a #1 printer, and that's what they would stay as a #1 printer. But now you need to be flexible to survive in the printing industry. So not only will there be a #1 printer, but they might also colour match. They might also do their own quality control checks. The #2s and the guys on the back end might do their own press ready, and also might fill in within the finishing section. Again, it's one way to save a few of the costs of the manpower, just to survive and compete with other countries such as Japan and China to win business.
Next slide, please, Alex. So we've got 4 main printing processes. LIFO, as you can see up here, is the biggest percentage, the biggest contributor to printing on anything from paper, onion skin, heavy board. We can move down to gravure. Only 8% of the market in 2002. That's reduced, but it's stayed consistent. A gravure is a very good, high quality print, but it's used really for a massive amount of repeat work, such as 1 million+ copies. If we look at digital now, you can see digital's bitten into the LIFO market. It's come up from 10% in 2002 to 2017. So the beauty of digital really is you can make profit out of a single copy, and it's a very, very modern, quick, reflective technology. Flexo, the mainstay really seems to be the packaging industry, and that's booming at the moment. You can see the percentages have gone up since 2002. So these are the 4 main processes. If anybody likes to take a guess what the other processes are, please stick them in the comment section.
Also, while you're doing that comment section, just a bit of realization. When John was talking about Gravure, it does a lot of millions and millions of copies of things. So that's like your Argos books, your Next catalogues, wallpapers, large running jobs such as your Cadbury's Cream Eggs and your Reese's foil. So if you put that into context of about the millions and millions of meters you do within Gravure, and then you apply it to litho, then you can see how much of the printing industry litho has picked up and what it must do. Also, John hit upon Flexo. Yeah, so in the olden days, you used to go into a grocery store, ask for 6 apples, and they used to bag it up in a nice brown paper bag, and that was it. But nowadays, supermarkets have taken over the world, and each individual fruit or vegetable has its own packaging. That's obviously gone through Flexo, and hence you've got your Aldi's, your Lidl's, and all sorts of different supermarkets asking for different types of plastic bags. So one of the main reasons why Flexo has gone up.
Okay, next slide, please, Alex.
Well done, Joshua. Yeah, letterpress, a screen. Yeah, pad printing, correct. Yeah, all good. Yeah, well done, guys.
So we're getting onto litho, which is one of the most popular processes. It's really known as the king of print. It's one of the, I think it's one of the best processes there. I'm an ex-litho minder, so I suppose I would have a prejudice or an interest in there, a bias. It really works on the process of oil and water don't mix. They have a natural ability to repel each other. So the pigment or the oil will be the ink. We put it onto a lithographic plate known as a planographic process plate, where the non-image area will attract the damping or the found solution, and you'll get a natural split of oil and water, hence it's been called planographic. Next slide, please, Alex. So lithography, as I said, it's really, we think, the king of print. We can do the majority of work from sheet fed to web fed, and you probably more than likely see it from magazines, brochures, leaflets, packaging. It will pretty much do everything. Aerosol cans and drinks cans, even beer bottle tops, so anti-bracing forms me. Virtually everything. So the next slide, please.
So yeah, this is Flexo. I'll have a go at this one, John. So yeah, Flexo, this is a really good diagram to explain Flexo. So in simple terms, Flexo is very much like potato printing. So as you can see on the right hand side there, where it's zoomed in on the diagram, the green area would be the plate, so it's picking up individual dots of that color. So yeah, that's the magenta. It's very hard to sort of see the slide, but you've got a doctor blade chamber which picks up the ink in the Analux roller, scrapes off the excess, and then delivers the ink onto the plate itself, and then it goes off onto the substrate. So substrate is an umbrella term for materials, and then don't forget that's just one color. So the skill of the printer is maybe this might be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 color press. You have to do this multiples of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. So sometimes it can be quite time consuming, depending on the age of the press. Next slide, please, Alex. So what you see here, because the plate is a rubber plate, it's flexible. The image on the right hand side, you can see the squash, which is basically the pressure from the plate onto the substrate. So at least maybe you might look at that and think it's a little bit too much pressure. But then again, the image on the left hand side is showing where there isn't enough pressure. So you can see some of the colors underneath, but the magenta isn't showing through. So then again, you'd have to balance up the correct pressure both sides. But you can actually see the dots on the one on the left hand side. So that's the individual dots that the plate has made to build up that image. Next one, Alex. Do you want this one, John?
Yeah, so digital printing, it's constantly evolving. It works really, it doesn't have an image carrier as such, where formerly we'll talk about a lithographic plate, a flexographic plate, or a gravure cylinder. It creates an image through positive and negative static electrical charges. So an image area will attract or repel a toner, and it will then be fused onto the paper. So digital can work on very small sheet sizes, or now it's becoming more popular on web formats, where you can be printing labels. Also, digital is brilliant for just a one-off copy. So it's aimed at variable data, which could be people's names and addresses stuck on letterheads, and a one-off copy can be created. Therefore, makes it very efficient and easy to produce ink on paper within 24 hours, within a couple of hours in this case. So next slide, please, Alex. So typical uses: short-run work, variable data, business cards, anything that's personalised, leaflets, point of sale, banners, and there's a bit of an emergence now with car wraps. People are putting on advertising as a way even to stick in the vehicle or just to upsell. So Steve, you're gonna...
I was going to say, sometimes when people lease cars or companies lease cars, the first thing they'll do is put a car wrap on it to protect the bodywork, because sometimes when the cars go back to the lease company, they'll charge them thousands of pounds for small scratches. So by putting a nice car wrap on it, it takes away a lot of the impact of the scratches, so they don't have to. So the price of the car wrap has already been paid because of the lesser amount of scratches that the car goes back with. So car wraps are quite big at the moment.
So next slide, please, Alex. Review process. Okay. As Steve mentioned, it's aimed at 1 million plus copies, expensive to produce the cylinders and very time consuming. So it really is a process you have to look at repeat work or something that you know you're going to produce at least 1 million plus copies from. It works with a cylinder, having the images actually etched or lasered or built into the engraved surface. Different cell depth, they are justified whether you've got more ink or less ink. The deeper the cell, the greater quantity of ink that it will hold. And it's a direct to substrate surface. Next slide, please, Alex. So magazines, packaging, security printing, catalogues, now cigarette papers, the actual camouflaged, speckled filter chip is traditionally always done through gravure. Long runs from repeat work. Next slide, please, Alex. So this really just shows the image. If you later on, if you come onto the intro to print, you'll be able to look at the images and use a linen tester or an eyeglass, and you'll be able to put your eyeglass over the print and see the characteristic of it. So the whole idea of the intro to print is that you can get the characteristics of print from litho, flexo, or gravure. And in this case, you can see there's like a speckled or a crocodile or Christmas tree raised edge. That's where the laser that goes, the cutting head that goes into the cylinder shows its characteristic. Next slide, please, Alex. So, would you like to take on screen printing?
Yeah, screen printing. So obviously, predominantly people, when you say screen printing, most people think of t-shirts. But then one of the main characteristics of screen printing is it puts down a large layer of ink. So anything that has a large layer of ink, so whether that's large banners, point of sale banners, even things like in the olden days, we used to have something called a DVD, and normally placed on top of the DVD would be a nice little image of that film or whatever the DVD is about. So not only can it go onto canvases, but anything that's got a large thick layer of ink, example, emergency signage, emergency exit signage, things like that. So screen printing does a lot of that sort of stuff. Next one, please, Alex. So here you go, here's a breakdown. So non-standard shapes, clothing, large format rigid displays, signage, anything that requires a very thick film of ink. So there you go. So hopefully you might have learned something from screen today. So next slide, please, Alex. Mesmericism. John, did you want to ping straight onto that? Onto your question?
Yeah, if you can move on, please, Alex.
We've got a question for you guys for the last 30 seconds. So if you go on to the next slide, please, Alex. And the next one. So within the paper terminology, this is where this question comes in. So normally within the intro to print, we talk about different types of substrates and different types of papers. And this is where we get this question from.
The endpoint usage.
Yeah, the endpoint usage. So what percentage of the world doesn't use toilet paper because it can be rather expensive or not sufficient plumbing? So you've got a couple of seconds. Can you all put in some kind of percentage? What you think, what percentage of the world uses toilet paper or not? Well, doesn't use toilet paper, sorry. So what percentage of the world doesn't use toilet paper? 5? 10?
10%. There we are, for most of that.
10. Thank you, Ursula. We'll give it another 10 seconds, guys. Oh, somebody knows something.
Dominic's going for 40%. Carry on 35. Right. So next slide then, please, Alex.
There you go. Might be shocked to some people. So I don't know what, obviously different countries might use different things. Oh, I don't want to get dwell on it too much, but there you go.
Next slide, please, Alex. Once again, we've only got a quick period of time to running out of seconds here, guys.
Average age of work is in print. This might be a good one for training coordinators.
Next slide, please, Alex. 38 years old.
There you go, 38. So many companies need apprentices.
Next slide, please,
apprentices. Might have to leave it there, John.
Okay, great. Thank you, everybody. Hope we've given you some information. It was a bit of a snapshot and probably delivered. I think we've done now, haven't we?
With pace. Cheers, guys. Thank you very much.